Steve, what's your initial reaction to this news that broke about a half an hour ago?
The expectation was from all parts of the industry that he was going to move on and he was going to go elsewhere.
Guys, welcome back to the channel. You just saw that clip of Steve Gelbs talking to, I think it was Gary or something, but he was talking to him about the expectation was with MLB insiders that Jacob Degrom wasn't going to come back in the middle of the season, and that obviously is not just a thought anymore. It is true. Jacob Degrom, if you missed my video last night, has signed a 5-year deal with the Texas Rangers for $185 million. And now the question is, what are the Mets going to do now, right? Because they lost Jacob Degrom. A report was sent out by somebody that, I think it was John Heyman or something, that the Mets are pretty much guaranteed to get at least one of the big three, that being in Degrom, Verlander, and Rodon. And since Degrom is off the market now, I think it's safe to say that they will either get Verlander or Rodon. I think they're more involved in Verlander, but if they don't get him, they can still go after Rodon. So, I think it's a big thing. I think now you have to get Brandon Nimmo back. You have to get Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon. So let's just go ahead and get into that and get into what the Mets should do now.
Oh, man. This sucks. This really sucks. Jacob Degrom is signed with the Texas Rangers.
Alright, guys, so I think the first thing we need to do is just go back and look at Jacob Degrom's talent over the past few years, because, the Mets need, now that Jacob Degrom is gone, they need a guy, or maybe multiple guys, that can add up to Jacob Degrom's potential on the mound, because we all know he is the best pitcher in baseball. So, let's just look at the career stats and 2022 stats. In 2022, he didn't pitch that much, had 11 games or something, 11 starts, 64 innings, 3.08 ERA. He not as good as 2021, but obviously 2021, he was on a different level for half the season until he got hurt. And here's the reason that I think the Mets might have dodged a bullet, even though it looks bad on their part. I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Jacob Degrom is not going to... I'm just going to go hot take. Jacob Degrom is not going to be healthy for all 5 years. I'd be surprised if he was healthy for 3 of those 5 years. And so I think the Mets dodged a bullet there, but we have to keep in mind all these stats and just remember what we're trying to get to even out losing Jacob Degrom. Alright guys, so we're here on my very professional Adobe Illustrator thing. I just made quick 5-minute thing where I did the 2 guys that the Mets have in their starting rotation right now. The number 1 being Max Scherzer and number 5 being Carlos Carrasco. Those 2 guys, really good that we have them just because it gives a little bit of something in our rotation, but we still need 3 guys in the Mets rotation. And so I put 10 guys and the guys that the Mets should consider, and then 5 guys that the Mets already have that they can throw in at the back of the rotation. And so I'm going to go through these guys, and then we're going to pick the ones that I think could be a good 2, 3, 4 behind Max Scherzer and in front of Carlos Carrasco. So I think the starters that the Mets need to consider are Jameson Taillon, Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, Kautai Senga, Nathan Eovaldi, Chris Bassett, Taijuan Walker, Andrew Heaney, Trevor Williams, and Jose Quintana. Internal options that the Mets have, they have David Peterson, Tyler McGill, Joey Lucchesi, Jose Butto, and Matt Allen. I think, let's just start with the 2 spot here. I think the Mets need Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon to fit in that 2 spot. I'd rather it be Carlos Rodon here just because I think if you have Justin Verlander and you give him the Scherzer type deal, you don't know if he could fall off or be good, and Carlos Rodon is younger. Even though Justin Verlander has gotten hurt less, personally what I want and what I think might happen is Carlos Rodon in the 2 spot, because I just think that maybe the Mets might want a guy a little bit younger with their injury history with obviously Jacob Degrom, who they just let go. And so I think I'd rather have Carlos Rodon here to fit in the 2 spot than Justin Verlander, even though it'll probably just be Justin Verlander in real life. So here I'm going to put Justin Verlander / Carlos Rodon. Alright guys, so we are now on to the 3 spot in the Mets starting rotation. Just to recap, we have Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, and Carlos Carrasco. These 5 and 1 being guys that we already have. And so number 3, I think, is where we start getting to the lower level, or not like mid-level guys in this group. I'm not gonna go to this yet. I think this could be like a 4 or 5 kind of guy thing. And so I think for 3, we have a couple main guys here that we could use, like being Kaudai Senga, Chris Bassett, or Andrew Heaney. I think in my opinion with this, I'd rather it be Kaudai Senga, just because the guy is insane. We being the Mets have Billy Epler, who obviously scouted Shohei Ohtani, so I think it'll be easy to get Kaudai Senga just knowing that we have Billy Epler. But if we want to go Chris Bassett way, we know what he's going to give you, probably like 3 to 3.5 ERA every year. It might just be easier to kind of like we might just know better what we'll get from Chris Bassett than Kaudai Senga. But if we want to go after Kaudai Senga, we could. But I think Andrew Heaney would be a great option here. I just don't think the Mets would be willing to pay a guy that has been inconsistent his whole career. So I'm gonna knock out Andrew Heaney here. But I think I'm gonna go with Kaudai Senga here just because he feels like the more realistic option. Even though Chris Bassett I know is very good, he's gonna have a bigger market than Kaudai Senga. He already does. The Dodgers have been involved in Chris Bassett, the Red Sox, teams like that. So here in the 3 hole, I'm gonna go Kaudai Senga. Alright guys, so we're back to it with the 4 hole in the Mets rotation. I think I'm gonna make this the 4 or 5 hole for the Mets here, just because Carlos Carrasco could definitely fit in a 4 hole if I wanted to use any of these 5 guys. But right now, I think for a 4 hole, good guys would be Jameson Taillon, Jose Quintana. Not gonna say Trevor Williams. I just think he's gonna cost too much for a 4 hole guy. Possibly like guys over here in the internal option. I think you could go David Peterson in the 5 hole, Tyler McGill in the 5 hole. Guys, remember when Tyler McGill started opening day in 2021? Or 2022. I think you could go Joey Lucchesi in the 5 hole, Matt Allen maybe, like in the middle of the season, but these last 2 guys I just kind of put here because I needed 5. So right now, the main guys that I'm thinking about in the 4 or 5 hole are going to be David Peterson, Tyler McGill, Joey Lucchesi, Jose Quintana, and I think we're going to go Trevor Williams here. I'll add Taijuan Walker to that just because I don't know if he'll be able to fit anywhere, but we'll try to make it happen. So I think if we're talking about a guy that could go in the 4 hole, the best guy on here would be Jose Quintana. But because the Mets would also need a lefty if they weren't to get Carlos Rodon. But if the Mets also wanted to do like maybe almost a 6-man rotation or just 2 guys flip-flopping in the 5 hole, they could do David Peterson and Tyler McGill or any of these 3 guys together. But I think realistically, if the Mets were to go out and spend on any of these 3 starters, Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, or Kaudai Senga, Brandon Nimmo, or another good center fielder, and many bullpen pieces, and probably another offensive upgrade, I think that would be a lot of money that the Mets would not want to pay for another starter. So I think the Mets would probably realistically rock with Tyler McGill in the 5 hole and Carlos Carrasco in the 4. Or, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to put here. I'm going to put Tyler McGill in the 5, Carlos Carrasco on the 4. David Peterson could be that lefty. Joey Lucchesi could be a lefty in the bullpen as well. So I think I'm going to do Tyler McGill 5, Carlos Carrasco 4. Alright guys, so that's what I think the Mets starting rotation is going to be in 2023. If you have any changes that you would like me to make, you can go ahead and make them in the comments, and I'll read those, and I'll get back to you. Like and subscribe. So that's the 2023 rotation I think they're going to have. Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon, Kaudai Senga, Carlos Carrasco, and then Tyler McGill. I think that's what they're gonna do. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. You're watching Mets Main Street. Do it.